In the absence of the goofy shit you're talking about, they have substituted kind of nothing. Like,
absolutely
that's the
nothing.
problem.
Generic, Matrixy action.
They ride horses. They have kind of like
bad wire
helmets,
fights.
conehead helmets. There's some wire work.
So bad.
Some swords.
The moment I wanted to talk about was when Wahlberg gets the gun. And then the movie, like, that's like a moment where now, like, he's got power.
Yes.
Right.
And then the monkey just breaks
Instantly
it.
destroys
and then they
it.
just move on.
Yes.
And it made me so mad seeing it again now because I haven't watched it since it was in theaters.
No, you don't rewatch it annually?
No. I hate it. I hate this movie. I hate hearing you guys talk about it.
I don't like talking about it.
But that sucks. That is like such an obvious moment to like let Mark Wahlberg character now have like some power against the monkeys, but they're just like, no, we're gonna take that away.
It's why I think the Charlton Heston scene is kind of interesting because it's almost an idea, and it's almost an idea that's original to this movie. Because in the original series, all the apes have guns, right?
Yeah,
they have.
They're more advanced in general.
Yeah, but they have like rifles and they have pistols.
Right.
They also have nets and like like billy clubs. Like they have all types of weapons.
Sure.
But firearms are not a thing that they have not figured out.
Right.
Okay, this movie is saying like humans have guns.
Right. It's saying that apes kind of their ceiling is like ancient Rome. Like that's as bad as they can have like a civilization, but it's ancient.
Right. And that's like the deep dark secret is like they figured out that humans have guns. They took the guns away from the humans and have tried to rewrite history so that guns don't exist and that humans have always been a lesser species.
Right.
Because they know if humans get access to guns, the whole thing is over. Right. Which is kind of an interesting idea.
Again, if you want to dig into it.
Right. If you want to explore that is a thing you could do.
Right. And it almost then like gets in this thing of like, were the apes right? Like they created a new society because they knew humans were too reliant on a destructive technology. Exactly.
It's no good.
It's no good, but you're like, that's almost a hook for a screenplay.
Sure, right. But their society
Apes
sucks.
evolve, they see that guns are actually the primitive thing. And so they like, enslave humans. Hide guns inside like very well-made artisanal fire drops.
That's where no one would look.
Yeah, where no one would look.
Because it couldn't physically be inside it.
Yeah.
But then, what's the ape society? It's like David Warner is like an old senator.
Yeah.
You don't really see like
what is the government?
What the government is.
I mean, in the
Thade is like in charge, but all his decisions are just like him going like, kill the humans. Like, I mean, he doesn't like have a lot of like tactics.
Yeah.
No.
Right?
No, just beating on people and
jumping
onto his horse very dramatically. Whee!
Right, and you're also like, is Thade viewed as like the Charles Manson of like this ape society in the way that he's just like constantly like hunched over and like sort of talking to himself about like stinking humans, dirty humans.
No,
and then,
he's the Abraham Lincoln of.
He becomes.
And then as
Abraham Lincoln.
as another indicator of the badness of Captain Leo Davidson, he doesn't defeat him or kill him. He leaves him there.
Right.
Just literally, just like when he leaves the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he just feels like it.
He leaves him in a cell.
He leaves Thade behind.
Right.
Totally fine.
Thade somehow gets access to another spaceship.
That's the only way to explain the ending, right? Is that Thade beat him there?
Yes.
He found a spaceship.
I mean, the ending still makes no sense to me.
None.
Right? Now, there's some sort of DVD insert. Who was telling me about this?
I was telling you about this. We talked about it in one of the commentary episodes, but the DVD literally came with a paper insert
that explains this because the movie does not.
Has a timeline and shows like wormhole like physics.
Well, explain it.
I cannot tell you. I mean, David, if you want to look it up.
Trying to find it, yeah.
Supposedly, like, first one in, last one out is the idea.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to believe that the purple cloud itself has some sort of governing law.
Right.
That it's not a random... You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it sends people out at different times, but the times are close enough in relation to each other, and it's only a link between two different planets.
So if it was just Thade who got onto Earth, how did he make all the monkeys?
Well, we don't. Yeah, that's one part of about 3,000 parts that makes no sense.
There's one. All right. So there's one thing. Some people think that he doesn't make it to Earth.
Who's he?
Wahlberg.
Okay.
He just goes in the purple cloud and then goes into the future of
this is the more
planet
of the same planet,
the same planet of the apes. Except we see like
I know. I mean, when he left, they were all like, "And we'll never fight again."
But
and
also,
Fade
I'm pretty
sucks.
sure in that. I mean, at the end of the movie, though, they show Saturn and they show him flying
you're
to
correct,
Earth, and then the screen on his the screen on his computer says Earth. You have to willfully ignore actual evidence on screen to buy that
fair
theory.
point.
And I know.
I mean, Burton's thing is mostly just like, I don't know, like there needed to be room for a sequel. Like,
that
right?
was
Like
his,
that's
he
his,
was like, whoever made the next one, I was going to let them figure that out. That's truly how he talks about it.
Yep.
A friend of the show, Alex Ross Perry, has pointed out, he texted both of us knowing we were going to do this episode, that in fact the original book ends in a way that's very similar to this.
Sure.
The original book is very different. I believe it's apostolatory.
Sure, the epistolary. You mean
epistolary,
letters?
Sorry, another word I mispronounced. Right. It's very different from the original film.
Pierre
Boulle.
Yes. Let's see. They fly back to Earth and they are greeted by a field officer who is a gorilla.
Yeah.
Is at the end of the book.
They should throw this movie out.
Yeah, they should.
But I mean,
they should drag it into the garbage on their desktop and delete.
Even if you
yes,
even if you sort of accept, okay, well, if you go into the cloud first, that doesn't mean you're going to come out first, or yada yada yada.
Right.
It doesn't really explain how Thade would get so far back in time. But let's just accept. Just accept that he does. Like, even if Thade is able to find a spaceship inside the desiccated 1,000-year-old ruins of this thing that they also explode at one point.
Yeah.
Like, let's say he finds a spaceship, it works. He uses it. He goes back to the past. He creates this alternate timeline where apes are now in charge of Earth.
Uh-huh.
That still requires Mark Wahlberg, when he comes there, of all the places on Earth to crash land.
Yes.
He literally lands at the Lincoln Memorial,
right.
Which is now the Thade Memorial.
Yes.
Just so they can have a riff on the Statue of Liberty.
Now that you put it that
call
way,
it the Thade
really
Memorial
good.
to this day.
Yeah, I call it the Thade Memorial.
I'd call it the Thade Memorial.
Yeah.
If I'm there.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's the Thade Memorial.
Yeah.
You mean in our world?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Thade Memorial.
That's the Thade Memorial.
That's fair.
All right, here is a DVD. Here's an explanation.
Okay.
Time on Earth and time on Apes Planet move in opposite directions.
David's using his hands.
Okay.
Because
hands
the
are moving.
storm moves in opposite directions. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So that's why the Oberon lands, the space station lands like first, and then Leo, and then Pericles. Even though
So the
went,
more time that passes in between the people who go through the cloud, the further it sends them apart from each other.
Exactly. So it's like, even if Leo technically goes through the cloud first, like some other apes go through the cloud later, but they land earlier, like because of
So like
you see, it's opposite. Oh, Ben's leaving.
If Wahlberg goes into the cloud,
he's tapping out. He's tapping out.
if Wahlberg goes into the
Has
cloud,
this ever happened?
Sure.
yes, definitely, many times.
We're very tiresome.
Yeah, he wants the show to end in general. If Wahlberg goes into the cloud 5 minutes after Pericles does, in the law of ape time lasting
Ape Time
longer,
Continuum.
Yes.
ape time is slower
Newton's first ape time
and
law.
backwards.
The Ape Time Continuum.
Right, means that he lands 48 hours earlier, so you
Sure.
go by transitive property.
Right.
If the mothership goes in like a day or two after Wahlberg, that would be thousands of years.
Right.
And if somehow, like, the only way they could kind of explain it is if in the sequel, Wahlberg goes back to the original planet and then Thade takes his spaceship.
Yeah. Sure.
But that's still asking another movie to clean up your mess.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to find this DVD insert.
It's
like
kind
the
of like, you know,
actual-
it is a little, it is sort of evocative of like the part of Back to the Future 2 where he shows up in Evil 1985.
Right.
If you didn't like explain how any of it worked, or you showed Biff in the time machine, or you did any of that stuff, and you just stopped the movie right there.
And also, to Ben's point, when the mothership lands on the ape planet,
it's this the DVD insert is doing what I'm describing, which is it's showing how like the later you leave on one end, the earlier you arrive on the other, because as this DVD insert boldly proclaims,
Yeah.
time does not travel in a straight line through an electromagnetic storm.
Could you imagine just
Mark Wahlberg wants to take this thing's lunch money. This inserts lunch money.
Maybe I misunderstood though. Doesn't the Oberon or the spaceship that we're somehow going to have in 10 years because the human part of the movie is set in 2029?
Yeah, can't wait.
Doesn't that ship go in as a result of Wahlberg's?
Yes, they're trying to find Wahlberg.
So how did they wind up, if they only went in, I'm going to assume, at best, days or weeks after he goes in, how did they wind up thousands of years ago?
Well, that's the idea, is that time moves so much slower that if Wahlberg goes in 5 minutes after Pericles, that results in him being 2 days earlier.
Okay. All right.
So by transitive property.
I'm going to pretend I understand
I think
what
that's
you're saying.
the idea.
Yes.
But to Ben's point, the Oberon goes in, and they have all the apes that they've been like experimenting on.
Sure.
So that's enough of a species that if it lands over thousands of years can evolve into an entire race.
Yes.
But
and learn how to talk?
Right.
Sure.
You go over time if they, whatever.
Yeah.
But then you go, how did they get? I don't know. This is futile.
Well, no, but what do you mean? Because, like, clearly, yeah, as long as you landed on Earth at a specific moment, you would have Jeeps and Lincoln Memorials and Washington Malls. Everything would be the same except for apes.
That's the thing, because the ape culture is so radically different.
Yeah. Right. Right. Why would all of a sudden the ape culture that was firmly developed on ape planets?
You know what it's like.
Go ahead.
Bear City. Do you remember Bear City?
No.
Bear City was an SNL sketch. It was like a pre-digital short thing in the early 2000s. I think it was made T-Sean Shannon. And it was Bear City was like their riff on Planet of the Apes, where the bears got smart and they decided to kill all the humans. But they just took over doing what humans were doing.
Sure.
They didn't rebuild society.
Right.
They just put on humans' clothes and then just started doing their best impressions of how humans act.
Right.
Because it seems like apes have different enough brains that they wouldn't be like, and of course this is what a police uniform looks like.
No, it's just like they kept the National Mall.
Right.
Like, by and large.
Right.
I just feel like it's so instructive too.
The Washington Monument's still like there. It looks exactly the same.
I feel like it's very instructive, though, to compare like this movie with the original one when you're comparing the endings, which they very clearly were like, well, that one has the Statue of Liberty, so this one we got to have some kind of monument.
And we got to have something crazy happen at the end.
But like it's got to be a shocking moment.
Yeah.
But the end of Planet of the Apes explains everything.
Yes.
That is the moment that makes it all make sense.
That's why it's a well-regarded ending.
And this movie is the moment where you're like, what the fuck? Like, what?
And they start explaining it earlier because you have the little girl doll, which he's trying to make sense of, and
There are
Zeus is
clues.
like, you're not going to like the answer.
Sure, it's not right. It's not like it comes
You
out of
might think that we should all be damned to hell. Honestly,
You may just yet damn us all.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like it ends with Heston having his moment of like, oh no, like
But you need that rather than Wahlberg just
That's
looking
what I'm
like.
saying. Like
Wahlberg's like,
in
oh,
contrast,
what's going on?
Yeah,
Oh, what's
right.
going on?
What do you mean, yeah, to Sam Adams? Like it's that level of like confusion. I mean, the fact that apes have rebuilt the Abraham Lincoln Memorial.
yeah, it's not even like shock. It's more just like kind of it's just like
What?
I
didn't know it was that late. It's that sort of like.
I think I got it.
You got it.
You figured it out.
You went to the bathroom and you cracked this movie.
Cracked it.
What made you crack it? Taking a shit.
Taking a piss.
Okay.
He goes to the planet, right? He's on Earth. It's
planet.
all Mark Wahlberg's now. It's Planet of the Wahlbergs.
This is your rewrite. It should be Planet of the Mars.
That's the better ending.
Oh, I see.
And then he's just like, "Oh, this rules." And then they're just like,
"Oh yeah!"
He high fives the cop.
Wahlburgers for all.
Yeah.
America is just an endless line of Wahlburgers.
The United States of Wahlberg.
I don't know. I mean, you and I have both talked about, David, how weird this phenomenon is, because this is one of the last times where like a movie made a ton of money,
Right.
and the studio was like, we probably shouldn't make a sequel.
The studio was wisely like, we got out of
This is a
this
disaster.
with our hides. Like